Welcome to the Living Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Preston M. Smith. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Living Artist Podcast. I'm Preston M. Smith, at PMS Artwork everywhere on internet land and socials. I want to thank you for landing on this podcast. Whether you're a professional artist, just getting started in the art world, a collector of art, or just consider yourself a creative person, this podcast has something for you. I like to think of it as a fun way to rant and talk to other creative people about living the life of an artist, surviving and getting ahead in the art world, and enjoying your life. But most importantly, not waiting until you're dead to make it happen. All right, let's get started.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Nice to see you. Put a face to a name.
You know, we might have actually met before.
I have that feeling too.
I have this memory of me being strapped to my infant and meeting a couple at Mike Collins' art gallery.
Oh,
and I feel like
yeah.
you have a wife who's also an artist.
My wife is Magdalena. She was a multimedia designer. She now works at UCLA, but yeah, she's an Argentinian. I don't know if that rings any bells.
I don't remember any faces. I just remember meeting a husband and a wife. It was like the week before the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
It was, I don't know her name, but Savania's show, the Russian lady.
Sarah Svetlana.
Yes.
Yes.
I think it was her. Anyway, that might have been you, maybe not.
I think it was because when I was looking at your clips and everything, I was like, she looks so familiar. I was an actor way back in the day. So I was like, maybe but I think it was at a different time. I was acting here around 2002, 2003. And yeah, so probably not. It was probably at Shockbox. Yeah, I work with Mike a lot and we put a lot of shows together. How are you doing today?
I'm really good. Yeah.
Good.
I'm intimidated by this wind.
Crazy.
And I'm excited that it might get snow.
Yeah, I was going to tell you there's like a hurricane warning for the first time, I guess, in history.
No. Wait,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What is happening?
I don't know. Climate change, all that fun stuff. But I think it's just in the foothills and the mountains. But I think, it's going to affect, obviously, Los Angeles County as well. So we might see some snow.
Or a hurricane.
Or we might just have the big one and just fall into the ocean finally.
Well, I'm just waiting for that day. Yeah.
Yeah. That's going to happen at some point.
That I fully believe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just counting the time before the big one happens. And I get to take up my earthquake bag and realize I don't know how to use any of these things I've packed.
Yep.
And then I'll just kind of give up.
It's all expired. My wife got crazy. You know when the whole tsunami in Japan happened?
100%. Yeah.
My wife went crazy about that. And she started putting together, we had bags all over the house, which is great. But I don't know the last time that we checked up on the bags. So I don't know. we may or may not survive the zombie apocalypse. But okay, well, let's get into it. This is all going to stay in because we're not that professional, but it's fun to kind of get to know each other while we're being recorded. But so you're originally from Austin, right?
I am. Yes.
Cool. So and you came down here in 2006-ish?
For school. Mm-hmm.
For school.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll let you tell all that. But so how did you meet Mike in the first place? Are you an art fan? Do you know him from something else?
He's actually my therapist.
Oh, very cool. Mike is multifaceted.
Yeah, he's one of my top 5 favorite people, I would say. He's been pretty special in my life. So he's my therapist, but I mean, he's also like a friend. And I realize that's kind of weird, but that's just the way he does his business anyway. It's like he's a therapist, but he doesn't have that like doctor feel.
For sure. Well, and that's funny because he's, the gallery owner and somebody I work with a lot too, but he's kind of everybody's therapist in the gallery as well. He gets text messages late at night from a lot of us. Well, that's cool. That's cool that Mike's bringing everybody together. So you are an actor or actress. However, I hear that people don't say actress anymore. Is that correct?
I don't know. I'm fuzzy on the rule. I just by whatever someone says, but yeah, actor maybe.
Actor.
Oh,
Yeah.
how about waitress too? I don't know what the rules are right now.
Which one?
Like waitress? Is it
Oh,
just a
yeah.
waiter?
It's server.
Oh,
Which is
really?
kind of, I think that's worse.
I think it's closer to servant, which I think is awful.
Yeah, right. Well, okay. It's been a long time since I was a server, so it might have changed. But yeah, at the time they were making a change. It was like, all right, now you're a server. Okay. So, but we'll go with actor for now. Ellen Wroe, I'm assuming I'm pronouncing your last name correct, is an actor. She has been on Final Destination 5, For All Mankind, Animal Kingdom, Shameless. You've got Unprisoned coming out with Kerry Washington and Delroy Lindo, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd you know that?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I'm like a huge film and television buff too. So we'll get into that. But why don't you take us through your origin story? How did you get into acting? I know you have some gymnastics background, but I'll let you tell it. You can start as early as you want, take as long as you want, and get us up to speed.
Sure. So yeah, I'm from Austin, Texas, from a great big family of Belgians and Texans. Really, I think my way into acting was through gymnastics, weirdly. That was my identity growing up. I was an athlete. I was a gymnast. That was what I did with all my spare time, and I loved it. And then when that came to its sort of natural conclusion, initially I was like, cool, I'll just be a kid. I'll be a teenager, and I'll go to school like everyone else.
Yeah.
And I quickly found that that wasn't, that for better or for worse, that didn't sit well with me. I wasn't content with that. And I was looking for something to fill that void. At the time, I was like, oh, I just need a new goal. I kept saying it's a new goal. Now I think I know more of like, well, maybe you were just identifying as a human doer and not a human being. Like maybe there's some things to unpack there. But at the time, I was searching for a new goal. And I'd always done the plays, and gymnastics is fairly performative. There's also some interesting similarities where, gymnastics, you're a part of a team, but it's an individual sport. And in acting, you're a part of a cast, you're a part of a community, but it's this individual, it can be a very individual exploration while also having a community feel. So there's some overlays. So I just threw my heart and soul into that. And, when I was looking at colleges, I was like, what do I want to do with my life? I've got a pretty big interest in math, and I was thinking about engineering, but I was like, well, I'll go to USC. It's in LA, and I can study math and do that. But with all my spare time, I'll try to figure out this whole acting thing. And that's what I did.
Oh, that's cool.
Stumbled into some great classes in Hollywood, stumbled into a phenomenal community of actors, learned a lot, failed more, and then got lucky, found some representation and graduated. And I was like, well, I have to pursue this, because I was getting into some exciting rooms and having opportunities. By no means, making much money.
Right.
But I was like, I gotta give this a go. Yes. And I did.
So you were doing this while you were in school. How long did you graduate?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm interested in obviously the first, one that you landed. I don't know if Final Destination was the first major thing you landed.
Yeah, that's cool.
Were you doing commercial stuff or anything like that as well?
I was trying. But no, I didn't have much success with the commercial world, and I was going out theatrically, which sounds like theater, but it actually means TV film, as you probably know.
Yes.
I was going out fairly regularly for TV, not much film, but
episodics.
Episodics, yes. Yes, you know the lingo.
Okay.
Well, I did do 2 co-stars that not many people know about, but
really?
A teenage female wrestler on Gary Unmarried.
Nice.
Directed by James Burrows, he's a huge sitcom director.
Yeah.
So I had 2 lines, and I got to do some wrestling moves.
That's awesome.
And then I played a mean girl on an ABC Family show called Huge. So, and to me, I was like, oh, these are huge opportunities. Looking back, like they were very small, but I was so excited.
You're like, Mom, I've made it.
No, truly.
I love it. Yeah, I remember acting. That was like that's how I discovered LA. I came down here. I started doing extra work, and then I was just driving around to auditions. I landed an agent, and I did like the Actors Network, and I did a class with Anthony Mendel. I don't know if you know who that is, but yeah, I did a bunch of stuff, and a couple voiceover things, small films. I think the biggest thing I did was ironically was in post-production as I quit acting. So, which is funny. It is a crazy world. As an artist, as a fine artist, there's a lot of overlapping, but I would almost argue it's even more cutthroat and you get rejected even more than you do as an artist. What was that process like for you? How long did it take you of getting rejected before you first landed your big gigs?
Well, I mean, it's a constant process of rejection,
Right,
and
right.
it's still a ton of rejection. Yeah, you know this, but
Yeah.
weirdly, I started out the gate getting close to a lot of things.
Mm.
I don't think that's that uncommon. I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but there's like a beginner's luck, it feels like, or maybe an ignorant, maybe it's because here's an idea. It's because the rejection hadn't gotten to me yet. And so there was
Ooh.
this beautiful ignorance
Yes.
and walking into rooms without all that baggage. I bet you that's some part of it, because I got real close on a ABC Family show. I got real close on Shameless, actually, on a big part. I didn't get it, but it was a really cool close call.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got my Gary Unmarried co-star.
Nice. There you go.
And then I started having a lot of rejection. But at the same time, I was still like a senior in college trying to get my degree. So I think that helped a lot.
Definitely taking the focus away. You're like, well, I'm still going to school. I've got school to focus on. That takes away some of the pressure, maybe.
100%. I think the first time I really felt the rejection was right after graduation. So summer of 2010, when I had a job, I had like a day job, but it wasn't that many hours yet.
Mm-hmm.
And it was lonely. A lot of people had left and I didn't have much money and it was scary. And I remember my parents being like, why don't you come home for a weekend? I came home for July 4th and I was just like, I was just I was a shell of my former self.
Yeah.
And then Final Destination 5 came along, but not to take anything away from my success, quote unquote, there. I think I got it because of they needed a gymnast who could act. And that's a pretty hard thing to find.
I was going to ask you about that. Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I got it because of any work I had done dealing with the rejection or any sort of, I think I got it because it was a really lucky find. And I do think there was a confidence knowing that I was a gymnast.
Yeah.
And knowing that like I was exactly what you need. So I walked in with a little more swagger where I probably wasn't walking into other rooms that way.
Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, and she can act. What a bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what happened in that audition that never happened, hasn't happened since, is they only had 2 pages for this one character. So I did the 2 pages, and in the audition she goes, okay, now read the other character. That this scene was a two-hander. It was like me and one other character.
Yeah.
And so she literally had me read the other character's lines. And weirdly, I was fine with it. It didn't like flummox me, but it
didn't throw you. But wait a minute, this character is not a gymnast.
Yeah. But I remember being like, that's odd. And somehow I was able to handle it. It hasn't happened since.
Huh.
It's interesting.
That's interesting. Well, I've talked about that on the podcast quite a bit, of even going back to the acting days, because I talk about rejection a lot, how to deal with rejection. And there were times when I would go into auditions and I was hungover or I just didn't give a shit, and it was like, those were the times that I booked it. And I booked it like without a callback sometimes. And it was like, there was this intangible, like, oh, he doesn't care. We want that person. You know what I mean? It's not, and to connect the dots here, maybe with you graduated from college and having to get the job, getting the day job, and then go like, oh, wow, now I have to kind of make a living doing this. Now this is for real. Then that set in, and maybe that started to get in the way a little bit of your swagger when you went into some auditions. I don't know. I'm just projecting my own thing onto you.
No, I think that's so accurate, and that sort of stayed with me. For better or for worse, if I don't have a full life, whatever that means, if acting becomes too important,
yes,
I think it's possible that the work suffers. I'm sure of it.
Mm-hmm.
And and as Mike Collins could tell you, I don't do as well. I really have to have, whether that's a job, whether it's my kid, whether it's both, I have to have a full life, or else it's almost like I need to keep the acting fun. And a hobby is not the right word, but it can't be everything for me. And not everyone's like that, but I think that's just how it is for me.
I'm like that too. When you say a full life, you mean like a well-rounded kind of life, right? Like you have a lot of interests. You're interested in a lot of different things outside of the acting world.
Yeah, I need to
Yeah.
not be sitting there waiting for opportunities and then be waiting to hear back from those opportunities. I need to have other things going on.
The worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really smart. And I think that even fine artists can get a lot from that. I always tell people, you got to have other interests. You got to be curious. You got to be interested in this. This feeds this. This comes around here and overlaps. I still use a lot of my improv stuff, a lot of my acting stuff. I love music. I love literature. All those things feed into your process. And I'm sure that feeds into your acting as well.
Yeah. And I think that's a lesson I didn't learn until kind of recently of
Mhm.
like, it's not gymnastics. It's not just show up to the gym and work on gymnastics. Acting is an art, and part of it being an art is like being a human.
Yes.
So you kind of have to be a human in order to be a better actor. I don't think you have to be a better human to be a better gymnast.
Right.
I think, I think you can just show up and do the reps and keep, working on gymnastics. But like for me, working on being a better human has to help me as an actor. And that took me a while to figure out.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's similar with writing. People say, write what you know. So if you don't have any life experience, where are you going to draw from? And if you don't have any life experience as an actor, where are you drawing from? I mean, I guess you can mimic, but if you want to go deeper than that, like to draw from your own personal well, you got to have that life experience. You got to have those interests.
Yeah.
I think that's
100%.
really true. Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the gymnastics and going into that. How far along did you get with the gymnastics process? How far did you go with that? And then I want to segue into the kid, because I know that's something you're really proud of. And
Yes.
I know you use those skills a lot in that. And if anybody doesn't know, you can check out the Instagram. You can check out her Vimeo. And I guess it's got 45 million views already. Is that
47 million?
Oh, I got
Yeah.
I got outdated data here. But wow, that's amazing. It looks really cool. But how far did you get in gymnastics? And then we're going to segue into the kid.
Yeah, I quit when I was almost 16. So I was a level 9 working on being a level 10. So for those of you who don't know gymnastics, there's 10 levels, and then there's a very big leap from level 10 to being an elite gymnast.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you're an elite gymnast, that's sort of where they pick the Olympian people.
Oh, wow.
So level 9's pretty far. There was no world in which I was going to be an Olympian at all. There was a world in which I was going to be a collegiate athlete. And that's something I definitely thought about.
Yes.
But then, two things. One, emotional. Most of my friends quit, and I realized I thought I was a really committed gymnast, but when my friends weren't there to make it also fun, it really wasn't fun for me.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of the end, is once I was kind of alone. And then number two was I was like, I had good grades. I'm fortunate to come from a very supportive family. I didn't need gymnastics to get into college.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I could get in on my own without that. And I was like, well, what's the point? I just didn't see what the end goal was. For me, gymnastics has a very clear expiration date.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to put all my eggs in that basket.
And a pretty young expiration date.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was sort of a sobering realization of like, I don't want to live my whole life and my best years be my, age 19 and 20. Whereas some people might think acting has an expiration date. I don't think that. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Acting can be forever.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the benefits of being in the arts is you can continue as long as you can be alive, and as long as you're still interested and curious, you can be doing it.
They're going to need an old white lady at some point, and that's going to be me.
It's going to come back around. They're going to need old white ladies again at some point. No. I mean,
you're going to need them.
Yeah, right. Well, that's awesome. So the kid, well, I have a little bit of a understanding that I was a basketball player. That was my thing. I almost played college basketball, and then I quit to do fine art and theater. But yeah, I would have played college ball, but I wouldn't have gone any further than that. And I agree. I just made that transition. I was like, well, I'm going to go into something that has a future like art.
But I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. Something that you can pursue for, a craft or for a lifetime. But okay, so the kid, I know you're a producer on it. You're also acting in it. I saw the 5-minute clip on your Instagram and a little bit on the Vimeo, and it's amazing. You were like kicking ass in this thing. You want to tell us a little bit about that? And I also want to know what got you into producing and if that's something you're going to be pursuing. A lot of questions.
A lot of questions. I'll do my best. So I started doing martial arts at 25. Just because I knew I couldn't do gymnastics anymore. I was too old to go be a gymnast in something else. But I was like, God, I have this passion and this skill for physicality. What can I do with that? So I started taking martial arts, loved it, and was looking for a narrative way to showcase those skills. I didn't want it to be sort of just a routine that I filmed. I was like, how can I want to do a narrative thing that also showcases these moves. And I didn't know. And then my buddy and I, who we had actually collaborated on a few comedic shorts earlier in my 20s, we met and he was like, I really want to do something action-wise. I was like, great. That's exactly what I want to do. And we had plans to write a short together to fill both of these needs. Him wanting to direct. He's a director and editor. His name's Nicholas Wenger. He's very talented. He wanted to direct action, and I wanted to two things. I wanted to showcase my action skills in a narrative way. And I also wanted to showcase, I don't often get the chance to play leading roles. That's not really how I package myself, or I love supporting roles. But I was like, what would be the leading role that I would cast me in? And to me, this was this. So Nick wrote it in a weekend.
Oh, wow.
We were going to write something together. He straight up sent me something on a Sunday night, and I was like, this is perfect. Wow. I have no notes. Let's do it. So we ended up producing this amazing short that he wrote, which ended up being a proof of concept for a feature, for a larger story, which we've written. And it's called, I'm forgetting my own name. Please get that out.
That's all right. No, it's good.
It's called Transference. I was about to say Transcendence because I just watched a sci-fi show called Transcendence, but no, it's called Transference.
Oh, nice. And
it's an amazing sci-fi action, beautiful, emotional story, sort of a grounded take on the superhero genre. And it's just a script right now. We have it at Skydance and at Lionsgate. People are trying to, see if they're interested. So we're trying to sell it.
Oh, very cool.
In the meantime, we'll see what goes on with that. But the short is something I'm just so incredibly proud of, and it exceeded my highest expectations.
Yeah, it's amazing, honestly. And so I want to ask selfishly, are you going to be pursuing this even if you're not the lead role, or is that part of the package deal? You got to take me.
I don't. I mean, of course, we hear the stories of Matt Damon and Ben Affleck and Rocky, and I think those are beautiful and wonderful. I think the economics of making movies right now, or make it so that you really do need someone with name recognition to bring people to sell a story, to sell a screenplay. So I don't think there's a world in which, of course, I'd love that, but I don't know that there's a world in which I'll get to play our lead role, who's her name's Shelby. But there is a tiny role in a really pivotal scene that I definitely am going to insist that I play.
Yes. I would love to see you play the lead, because you, honestly, I want to give you a compliment that might not seem like a compliment. I see a lot of action stuff, and you can kind of tell people are going through the motions a little bit. You really sell it. It is believable. You are like just kicking ass in the scene. There's a funny part where you basically annihilate these, 4 guys?
Maybe three
or four, at least 3. Yeah. And then you do this, spoiler alert, you do this jump up, flip onto the dumpster. And I'm like, at that point, I would be gone. I'm like, fuck this. I just got my ass kicked, and now this woman just jumped up, did a backflip up 10 feet in the air onto this dumpster. I would be out of there. But it's an amazing scene. I really encourage people to check it out. I would love for you to play the lead, because I think you did such an amazing job in that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So was this your first job producing as well?
No, it was certainly my biggest job producing, but I spent a good deal of my 20s making comedic shorts and some music videos, and producing and starring in those as well. And that was such a great learning experience. So glad I did it. And we did a series too called Hey Babe, which I was very proud of. We wrote a pilot. If anyone wants to buy it, no.
All the producers.
What was that?
No, go ahead.
Oh. But yeah, then the kid was definitely the biggest undertaking for producing that I've ever done. after that, I started having kids. So that is sort of where my producing efforts have been channeling into. I've been producing humans.
You've been producing humans. Yeah. That's even more difficult, I hear.
I have found it to be more difficult.
Did you start the kid in 2018? Am I correct on that? Or a little earlier even?
A little earlier. Yeah.
It's a long process. I don't think people realize how long it can take.
Yeah. We shot it at the end of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even think we released it. We did the festival circuit in 2018, and I don't think we released it till 2019.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Chipping away at the feature, writing our screenplay. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, and me and Nick both had kids.
Yes.
And we had infants when the pandemic hit, and that really slowed down our process because there was just no time, no childcare, nothing. So 2020 was a bit of a wash. And then the short went viral in 2021. We kept revising our screenplay and just making it better and better. And now it's this 99-page script that I'm beyond proud of that we're trying to get sold. And I think we will. I think there's really something there.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think made this go viral? Was it just the quality of the work? Was it something you were doing on a marketing level, something with producing? Is it a combination of those things, or did you just not expect it at all?
I didn't expect. I was in the middle of delivering my second child when it happened.
Oh, wow.
There's an argument to be said that it was God or the universe or something.
Yeah.
I have no idea. We have no idea. All I know is that it helped that it went viral through a sci-fi platform that had picked up the short. So they saw our short, contacted us, asked us for an option agreement, and if they could release it on their site. So it went viral on their site, and they have a built-in sci-fi audience.
Okay.
That surely helped.
Yeah, for sure. I'm seeing a pattern and a theme here with you. You need to be a little bit distracted on something else to have something big happen, right? So
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing with you. Yes. My eggs cannot all be in one basket. It almost feels like I have to let go.
Yes, I love that. And it sounds like something that you're obviously aware of. And it's almost like a strategy for you just to be, have a lot of stuff going, have a lot of balls and, juggling in the air and be distracted and let things happen. Let the chips fall where they may.
I wish I could say it was a strategy. I think it's more, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Well, maybe this should be the strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, and then you said in your bio that you were drawn to messy women with big bare hearts. That's something that I kind of paraphrased a little bit, but I love that. And did you want to talk about that a little bit? And how do you, as a little sub question, how do you look for parts? How do you prepare for auditions? That kind of thing. Is this something that just goes through your agency? What percentage of stuff are you going out for?
I wish I could say I was at a stage where I could be more selective. I'm not. But that being said, I have a great team. I love my agents, and they seem to understand me really well, which I think is not everyone can say that. And they know what I'm right for. Mm-hmm. So I just don't go out all the time. I mean, it depends on what your barometer of all the time is. Compared to most people, I'm exceptionally fortunate. But no, I'm to answer your question, I guess more specifically, I rarely pass on an audition. Occasionally, if it really, okay, I passed last year on something, and then actually that same office cast me in Unprisoned, but I had passed for them the previous month on something that just didn't hit any of my boxes and wasn't going to work for my family really.
Again, almost like attention is somewhere else.
Yeah, I think I need to have another baby, and then maybe that's it.
Start another major hobby that takes up a lot of your time. No, but for people who are listening who don't know anything about the acting world, I mean, it's very case specific. I know people who would go out 5 times a day for commercial acting and auditions, like episodics and theatrical stuff. And then for me, I would go out like 3 times a month. It just kind of depends on your agency, depends on you, depends on your look, depends on your talent. Do you mind telling us how often you go out? Or is that something that, I mean, we can always cut out anything you don't want, but I'm just curious.
Well, we're in a interesting time right now where the industry is really changing. So I'll say, before this past year, I would go out probably once a week.
Yeah.
Which I was happy with. That's a lot less than some of my peers who were in different categories for whatever that means, ages, whatever. So some of my peers would be going out 3 or 4 or 5 times a week. I was always getting 1, maybe 2, maybe 0.
Yeah.
It's certainly slowed down since this fall for a number of reasons, mostly economic. It's just a really challenging time right now. And just to give some stats, I understand there's 13 pilots being cast right now.
Oh, wow.
Which is record low.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. And also, I was going to say for anybody listening, you're also focusing primarily on theatrical. Some of the stuff that I said earlier, people were going out on commercial auditions, so hence the numbers. But for theatrical, that's good.
For theatrical, I'm very happy with that. Since this fall and this spring, it's been less. It hasn't been once a week. But again, I feel like I'm in great company. A lot of people are experiencing similar droughts, if you will. So,
well, I can tell you from an artist standpoint as well. I make a living selling my work, and sales this year have just plummeted at the beginning of the year. And I know I talk to a lot of people around the world who sell their work as well, and everybody's kind of experiencing that. Hopefully, we're going to get to establish an equilibrium. But yeah, I think people are just nervous right now. It's hard economic times.
Understandably so.
Yeah. So sorry, I think I interrupted you.
Oh, I usually interrupt other people, so please. I don't
do it as much as you want.
But by the way, I checked out your art. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Particularly love the pop art, the famous people. The
iconic stuff.
Yes, I love that stuff.
Yeah, that's how I started out. I was doing about 14 or 15 years of just like pop surrealism. I did a lot of icons. I still do from time to time. Like I want to do another Bowie one coming up soon. But yeah, primarily now I'm focusing on abstract.
I think the actor in me just loves art with humans in it.
Yes, me too. Yeah, for sure.
It's cool. But I have right here a portrait of Amanda Gorman. I don't know if you can see.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Isn't that great?
Amazing.
And then there's one over here I can't show you because I'm plugged in, but it's just like bare hands holding grapes.
Mm-hmm. So you're an art fan too.
I was not. And then not that I didn't like it. I just, was too busy surviving to step back and what do I like? What do I think?
Mm-hmm.
I think working with Mike Collins has made me really appreciate art.
Yeah. He's probably talked you into coming to some shows and stuff.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Okay, good. He's doing his job then. That's good.
Yes.
I was going to ask, well, let's talk about Unprisoned, because that's the new one coming out on Hulu with Kerry Washington, Delroy Lindo. That's coming out in March, correct?
March 10th. Friday, March 10th. All episodes drop on Hulu.
Awesome. Oh, all of them?
Yeah. I think I read that somewhere. I
think it's 8 episodes or something like that. What's your part? What can we expect?
I think I'm in episode 5, and I play one of Carrie's coworkers who's super, super pregnant. And I think seemingly Carrie and the audience would judge this lady for being a little cliche and maybe a little seemingly shallow.
Mm-hmm.
But then ultimately at the end of the episode, you realize, no, this girl has a huge heart and is actually a very well-rounded 3-dimensional person. And then, maybe Carrie was jumping to some conclusions.
Oh, cool.
So it's a nice little arc. I've got 3 scenes. I got to work with Kerry Washington, who is just a boss. I mean,
she's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so pretty and funny.
Yeah.
And we got to improv a little bit too, which was cool.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Is this something that she's producing as well, I think?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's one of the EPs.
And I think I read it's about her father was in prison and he's released from prison and he comes and stays with her. Is that correct?
Yes. And she is a marriage and family therapist.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
Like a therapist, but little lessons she needs to learn, even though she seems like she has everything together because she's a therapist. And shouldn't all therapists have everything together? Wait, no, they're human beings too.
Exactly. As a matter of fact, I have a lot of therapist friends, and some of their, personal lives can drive you into being a therapist in the first place. It's the same reason why we're artists and actors. There's things in our lives that we're trying to improve upon, or maybe there's just something we want to act out or have something that's cathartic that we can express. But I wanted to talk about you having two kids, two boys, right?
Yes, Austin and Jackson.
Austin and Jackson, congratulations. And that happened basically during the pandemic. How was that? Was that a serendipitous thing for you? I'm assuming it gave you more time to focus. I'm sure it also came with its own problems, but why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I had Austin right before the pandemic. So the end of 2019.
Okay.
So I had a few months of relative normalcy where I had an infant, but life sort of went on and we had daycare and a few days a week. And I was like, this is easy. What is everyone saying? This is easy. And then the pandemic hit and I lost my childcare and I was home alone as the main, what's the word?
Caregiver.
Caregiver, mother, what would I say?
Yeah.
To a 5-month-old, because my husband still worked, but he worked upstairs. So, and he was at the time very busy in his job. So it was, the childcare was all on me. And it was a wake up call. I was like, this is hard.
Yes.
And I don't even know what to say. It was a bit of a blur those 5 months before our daycare reopened.
Mm-hmm.
And then life started becoming a little bit more normal. Of course, it hasn't ever gone back to, we don't have in-person auditions anymore. It's all self-tape. I tape right here in this room.
Oh, wait, like that's going to continue that way, or that's just what it's like right now in the transitional period?
We think that's how it's going to continue. Some commercials,
wow.
But theatrical, TV and film, it's all I tape right here by this blue wall. You send in a tape and then, that's it.
It's a good wall.
It's a great wall. Thank you.
If you're going to do that kind of thing, you got to have a good wall.
And by the way, I've got great lights. This is a good area.
No, it's great. Wow. I'm surprised. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And I actually just had my first in-person, it was a commercial audition last week, but it felt very theatrical. It was a 4-page beautiful scene with a husband and wife. It's like a PSA for suicide prevention. And it was thrilling, Preston. I mean, when I say that, and I'm not here shit talking the self-tape because, by the way, there's so many pros. I mean, one of my main anxieties about having kids was, I live in Redondo Beach. All of the auditions are Burbank, Hollywood, maybe Culver City. How was I going to get from Burbank at 3:45 to daycare by 5:30? I wasn't, and it was a real stressor for me. So the self-tape thing has been wonderful for us moms and us parents, and for those of us who date moms. So,
and for people who have anxiety of being in a room with a bunch of people who are just staring at you coldly.
Yeah.
Right?
But I think the messed up part of me loved that high and that low of like, the in-person thing could be so rewarding and you could feel like on top of the world. It could also be the most soul-sucking, fall on your face, fart in the middle of the room kind of feeling.
Yes, for sure.
But I as much as I love the self-tape thing, I do miss the community and the connection and those highs and lows.
So will you do the first audition that way and then will you go in person if you get a callback, or is it just all like that now?
It's all for theatrical. It's all self-tape, and then you might get a Zoom callback. Okay. So it'd be just like right now, but over Zoom.
Well, that's the real reason I wanted to talk to you today. No, I'm just kidding. I want to see your audition skills. No, I did see a twirl though. The twirl was great.
That's what we call a slate. The least favorite part of the self-tape is you just have to, out of character, be like, "Hi, I'm Ellen Wroe. I'm 5'5".
Yeah.
I'm vaccinated. I'm based in LA.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, that's so hard to do.
It's hard to do. Yeah. Well, I encourage people to look at your Instagram because you've got some fun stuff on there and Vimeo as well. The what's it called? If people want to search for that,
it was called a slate.
They just the slate. Oh yeah, the slate. Okay.
Oh yeah, the slate. SLATE. A slate is what you do at the end of an audition to tell them who you are and where you're based.
Yeah, and then you have the clip on Instagram where you do the twirl, and they're like, don't twirl, don't twirl.
Yeah, because I think that comes from like they need a lot of times they ask for a full body because
Yeah.
this is good and they need to see what you look like.
Yes.
And never can hide a lot, so they ask for a full body, and I'm like, well, do they need to see ass? Let me do them a twirl,
That's great. I love it. So, well, I was going to ask you. You kind of answered my question without me asking how the pandemic affected everything, but I didn't realize it was continuing down that road. So, in a sense, it was a little bit of a godsend for you with your kids to be able to do that from home.
In the logistics way, absolutely. And I think that's probably why it's sticking, is that everyone's feeling the logistical benefits, the efficiencies. Casting offices don't have to rent out space. It has made it harder, but also it's more beautiful that they can see more people. Yeah. So definitely. They can watch more tapes per role than they could see people in a room. So that's been wonderful because it's really opened the landscape up to people who weren't getting opportunities. It's also made it harder because it's just more competition. Definitely. So the pandemic's changed things a lot. But
what's the entry process like that? You still have to get called in to do it, or can just anybody send now?
Technically, you still have to have an agent get you the appointment, or you have to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody.
Yes. Okay.
But casting, in the past, might only get to see 15 people for a guest star. Now they can get 100 tapes for a guest star. Oh, wow. That's crazy. So, well, I don't know how much you know about the art world, but Mike and I we put together these group shows. The pandemic hit also, and we had to go online. So we started doing Zoom openings, and that became so popular and changed the game so much that even now we tried to kind of, wean off those a little bit, and people got upset because they were like, no, we like this now, because, you go to an art show, and how often do you get a chance to like sit down with each artist and hear them talk about their piece? You typically get cornered. Sometimes you get cornered by somebody weird and you are talking to them for like 45 minutes and you talk to two people, but now you get a chance to hear every single artist talk about their work that wants to. And each artist gets a chance to be seen, and without having to travel there. So it's kind of changed the game in some ways for the better, but also some ways for the worse. But I don't think it's ever going to go back 100%. Yeah. Yeah. So interesting to hear that. Thanks for sharing that. Well, I wanted to ask you about the podcast, because this was part of the reason why we got connected in the first place. So you are, if this is top secret, you can let me know, but you're planning on venturing into the podcast world a little bit, right? Potentially. My friend Katie Colleton, she's a brilliant writer, showrunner. She did a show called Teachers on TV Land. And now she's a writer and producer on the Santa Claus, the Tim Allen show on Disney Plus. Yes. So she's brilliant. We are considering doing a podcast that we're really excited about creatively. We also both have young children, and we just don't know if now's the time. Right. But Katie has a 6-month-old, and a full-time job. So. But the podcast we want to do one day, if not sooner rather than later, it's something called Bad Takes, or I think our working title is Bad Takes. And it's all about the humiliating Hollywood moments that haunt you and how you move past them or how you don't move past them. Oh, that's a great idea. It's my favorite topic. I mean, that is literally my favorite topic to hear and to talk about. It's like, when did you fart in a room? When were you on set and you tripped and fell in front of everyone and everyone laughed? Like, when could you not remember your line and it was a disaster? Yeah. I don't know. I just love those moments because I I just love laughing at that. And I have so many too. Oh, and I think it humanizes us, and there's usually a lesson there too of like, how did you move past that? Or by the way, does it still haunt you? And let's talk about how we could move past that. Definitely. No, that can be very cathartic. Yeah. And also it's like the equivalent of, it's like AA for actors. Kind of, right? AA is a bunch of people sitting in a room sharing their horror stories. It's kind of similar. Now, are you going to go potentially, are you going to keep it light, or are you going to go potentially dark, like meaning
sexual harassment stories, maybe stuff like that? Or are you going to try to keep it lighter? Because I know there's some sexual harassment in the Hollywood world, right?
I've heard about
Just a bit.
it.
I've heard about it.
I think we're open to both. I think I don't want to just keep it light. I think there's definitely moments for that. Our idea right now, and again, we're in the very beginning stages of this, but we were thinking of prompting guests with bring us a few stories. Bring us your humiliations, the humiliations that were just embarrassing. Bring us the humiliations that were shameful.
Yes.
Bring us the humiliations that were funny and that didn't cost you anything. And I think, with that prompt, I think we'll get the gamut.
Yeah, definitely. And is this going to be, so it's kind of interview format, right?
Yeah.
Or so it's going to be 2 podcast hosts?
That's the idea.
That's the idea. And then you're going to be talking to, what's that?
Is that a bad idea?
No. It's great. I love it. Yeah, there's obviously logistics that need to be worked out with that, of course. But no, some of those are great. I mean, I do a thing where I revisit with my wife every once in a while. We'll just do a thing where we both talk to each other and have fun. And we have talked about having people on. Sometimes that's the best because you get the most comfortable environment. If you're somebody that you love and you're creative with, it'll just bring that energy, because that's something that I've tried to do a lot with these interviews, is keep it very conversational and keep it fun, not just be like, so in 1987, you did this. Tell us about this. I don't want it to be stale like that. I want to feel like you're listening to somebody having a conversation, and you almost have that built in with your co-host. So that's great. Is it going to be long form? Is it going to be short form? Is it going to, maybe you haven't talked about this. I don't know.
We were thinking half hour for no other reason. That felt like a good amount of time.
Yes. And you'll focus on one person at a time, or will you have?
Yeah, I think, and of course, again, we don't know yet, but I think we should get enough fodder between the 3 of us, the guest, who will hopefully be the majority of the stories, but also like Katie and I have some wonderful experiences that are just so embarrassing to talk about. And Katie's also a comedian, and just could tell you, there's just so much wonderful fodder to laugh about. In our experiences.
Yeah, so you can bounce things off, and something will maybe trigger you in a good way to tell and share your own story.
I think so. Yeah. And maybe we've talked about starting off the podcast with just us sharing an event. Yes. And then maybe focusing the interview on the guest, because that's of course what they are, as the guest.
It's almost like you're warming up the room for the guests a little bit.
We're the openers. Yes.
Yes, we're the openers. I love it. Yes. You're the openers and the closers.
We're the B team, and the guest will be the A team, and we're warming them up for the A team.
Honestly, I love the idea. It's something that I would definitely listen to. So I think it's good. And we'll talk more, off if you want, if you have any questions or anything. But I may or may not be able to answer them. But we can talk more about it if you want. But I would definitely listen to it. So do you have a working title?
Bad Takes is the
Bad Takes. Title. Okay, that's good. So you're hearing it here first, everybody. Look up Bad Takes, maybe 3 months, 4 months, 5 months.
Maybe.
Maybe.
We both have infants.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you a plug. If and when it happens, I'll give you a plug on here, and hopefully drive a couple of people over to you. Because there's, overlaps and all this kind of stuff. Oh, just while I was thinking about it, we were talking about TV that had to do with therapists. Are you watching Shrinking at all?
No, I hear amazing things.
It's so good. I was worried that it was going to be really melodramatic, but it balances everything out so well. It's really funny, and it's touching, and it's serious when it needs to be, but it's pretty light overall, which I like. It kind of spoon feeds you some of the serious topics. It's really good.
Okay, I will add that to my list. I don't get a lot of TV time these days, but
only on TV, because you're on Apple. What's your For All Mankind is on Apple, correct?
Yes, I'm on.
I have not seen that still.
Oh, I think you would like it.
Yeah, I think so too. I've heard really good things about it. I mean, I've seen your clips and stuff like that. It looks really good. But you said you're on season 2?
I'm on season 2. I play Sally Ride, who's a real life astronaut. Cool. She's deceased now, but was a real life astronaut in the 80s. The first American in space, actually.
Oh, wow. Really? Yeah, oh, that's amazing.
He's sort of an American icon. But in For All Mankind, it's an alternative history show. So what they'll do is they'll bring historical figures, but their history narrative is a little different. So in season 2, Sally Ride was not the first woman in space, or the first American woman in space. She was just a prestigious female astronaut.
Okay.
For the purposes of that show.
So is it now, when you say alternate history, it's like a revisionist history type thing, almost like a Tarantino thing?
Yeah, I think that's another good way to put it. The whole premise is, the season 1 premise is what would have happened if the Russians landed on the moon first.
Oh, wow.
So they're going revisionist history in a major way from
Definitely.
the pilot. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I will check that out. My wife and I will check that out. That's one of our things. At the end of the day, some people unplug with a glass of wine. We unplug with shows, like really good shows and movies and stand-up comedy and stuff like that. So we will check out For All Mankind, and everybody should check it out as well. I wanted to ask you really quickly if you had a favorite role or roles. I know you love the kid, but do you have another favorite role that we can all check out?
Yeah, because I would say I have favorite roles from auditions and acting class, which is interesting because, no one will ever see those, and those can still be some of the most meaningful, I should say.
Yes.
But the most meaningful thing to me that aired was a role on Animal Kingdom I did. I played a teacher named Alexa in season 1. And that was a really surprisingly beautiful experience. I could not have imagined where that character was going to go. And it was just such brilliant writing by some writers I just respect so much, and some showrunners that I love. And it was a dream come true. I auditioned with like a 2-page scene, had no idea. They're like, she'll recur, maybe nudity. I'm like, okay, well, we'll see. And then it was a beautiful 8-episode arc where I got to cry, have an overdose, have an illicit affair with an underage kid, get arrested. I mean, it was an actor's dream.
Oh, that's awesome.
But with beautiful writing. It wasn't cheesy. It was really a grounded, dark, beautiful show.
Cool. I'll have to check that out too. I saw the clip of you with the underage kid. It was very, very cool. Well, so where are you? What are your goals? Like 5 years from now, where do you see your career? Where do you want to see your career? Can you share anything about that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I don't have a great answer yet. I think right now you're meeting me at an interesting time of it almost feels like I'm starting over in the way of, I think for the first time, I'm really taking a step back and figuring out who I am as an artist. And that wasn't something I ever identified as before. I was always an athlete who did acting.
Yes.
And I had some great success, and I'm so proud of my work. But it hasn't been until recently. Really, the self-tape process has been a huge part of this. Is for the first time in my life, I have total control, isn't the right word, but I am seeing my work product. It isn't just walking into a room and hoping for the best. I'm putting a performance on tape. I'm selecting the tape to send. I'm seeing bad habits. I'm seeing things I love. I'm seeing, oh God, this is beautiful. Or, oh, you know what? That doesn't work. And it's been a really wonderful couple of years in parallel with me becoming a mother and really stepping into that version of womanhood. So I don't know if I'm making any sense right now, but it's been a period of growth personally and in my art that has yet to really translate into my career, but I have to think it will. And I'm excited. I have no idea how it will. Maybe it'll look like I start doing plays, which I've never done and have always wanted. Maybe
theater's great.
Theater's wonderful. And I'm in a theater class right now that's just filling my tank to I just can't talk enough about how much I'm loving it. And the roles I get to work on in class. I'm paying to go do this, and I'm loving it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know where I'll be in 5 years, but I have to think if I just keep growing as a human and as a woman and as a mother and as an artist, I have to think only good things will come.
Definitely. And it's interesting because you had the pandemic, you had the birth of your 2 sons, you have all this change going on in the world. I know that's affecting everybody on some level, but affecting the acting world on a different level, affecting you in a heightened way. And I'm sure that has given you at least cause to pause and think about your life and reevaluate a lot about it. Has it ever been like, am I on the right path? Or is it something that you're just trying to kind of really synthesize and focus in on certain things?
No, it's been a really challenging year in that respect because I do have these two babies, and we bought our first house this summer, and there's just real life going on.
Congratulations. Yeah, this same
Thank
here.
you. Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Huge. Right?
Yeah, it's huge. Oh my God. It's always evolving too, right?
Yeah. It's a real sobering moment where you start to think, is this a selfish pursuit? Is this not practical? And I come from such a practical family of scientists. That's a very big part of who I am. That is wonderful. But, no, my husband and I had some very challenging conversations last year. And, I think right now, I don't know if I can say I'm on the other side of it, because probably that'll always be there. But I'm definitely on a better side of being like, I will always be an actor. That's who I am. That's the career I've built over the past 15 years, and one that I'm so proud of. And I have this skill set that is never going to go away, and it's only going to get richer and deeper and more ugly and more messy and more beautiful. Yes. So I don't think it's realistic to think, oh, I'm not going to be an actor. I will always be an actor. Mm-hmm. Now, does that mean I might go back and have another day job to help support my family? Probably. And there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, as we discovered, that strategy might actually work better for me.
That's right. You'll just go back to work for like a month, and then your career will just explode even further,
Yeah. And the beautiful thing I have to remind myself is that while opportunities have been fewer and far in between because of these economic times, the fervor and the passion and the beauty at which I'm showing up to these fewer auditions is wonderful and beautiful to see. And I think I've had one audition this month. I've had two auditions this month, and I got really close on both of them. And that's not something I can say when I was having an audition per week.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, I mean, how much of that is you having partial control of this now too?
I don't know, because, everyone now has partial control. So everyone is sending in their best takes.
Well,
so
I guess what I'm saying, sorry to interrupt you, but one thing that's interesting is not everybody is the best gauge of themselves, right? So like not everybody can tell when their best take is, or, oh, okay, this is the one that is going to hit people. And also having somebody in the room sometimes can alter your performance. So I'm assuming it's helped and hurt certain people. Yeah,
I think absolutely. Some people would rise to the occasion in the room and get fueled by that nervous energy, if you will.
Yeah.
And some people totally, would bomb, and the self-tape has helped them. I think for me, it's definitely helped my work 100%. Help my work, help my confidence too.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe you're right. Maybe it is a control thing. So for the first time, I'm seeing the product I put out, whereas before I really wasn't. I was walking into a room, but I had no idea if that, for lack of a better, if that shirt was just absolutely not a shirt I should ever wear again, or, oh, that shirt's actually a flattering color, or for a better example, that moment was totally pushed, Ellen, or, oh, that moment was beautiful and ugly.
It's like looking at tape now as an athlete. You can go back and review the tape. Oh, this
and I think that's dangerous for some people, but I think after working with in therapy for 5 years, I like to think that it's not a dangerous thing for me. It's been a really helpful thing for me.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I love that. And one thing I wanted to ask you, because all artists have to work on our mindset and keeping ourselves sharp and keeping ourselves in a flow state. Are you doing any sort of energy work or mindset work or meditation, anything like that? What are you doing to keep yourself at your best?
Great question. And I'm glad you asked me now, because 2 years ago I would have been like, nothing, I'm running.
Huh?
What are you talking about?
Yeah. Right.
Love Go Horns. But no, I have found, out of necessity, which is usually how I learn all my lessons, is that I have to wake up before my kids and do things for me so that I can be a good mom and also be the most present actor and artist and human being. So I have to set my alarm at the butt crack of dawn.
Yes.
And I'm doing this daily journal called the 5-minute journal, which is a gratitude journal.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. 5-minute journal for anyone. I do that really quickly. I am on the Headspace app. I do 5 minutes of meditation. That's it.
Love
I just do
Headspace.
to that 5 minutes of meditation. And then I'm reading this book actually right now called The Second Circle.
Who's the author?
Her name is Patsy Rodenberg.
Patsy Rodenberg. Okay.
Yeah, I've never heard of her. Supposedly she's a very famous British voice and presence teacher, also acting teacher, but more in the voice presence realm. And her work is all about the power of being present. And it's just so what I needed in this moment in my life. And I actually had a career coaching with a casting director I really respect the other month. And we had this wonderful conversation. And she was like, well, show me some of your self-tapes. And I showed her. And these were tapes I was really proud of. And she was like, great work. Cool. I would have been interested. Have you heard of The Second Circle? I was like, no. She was wow. Check this out. I think this is what's missing. And it's just another way of finding your voice, of being present. I mean, it's what the goal of, not to reduce the book, because I think it's brilliant, but it's like what I imagine the goal of meditation is just to be.
I think it's the goal of anything in life, right? Is to be. It enhances everything. It can enhance your acting. It can enhance you as a mother. It can enhance you, whatever, sitting at your computer, calm your anxiety, you name it. I think it's the key to everything. So I think that's really powerful that you're doing that.
Yeah. And by the way, it sounds so simple, but I swear to God, I don't think I really appreciate it. I think I'm still learning to appreciate that.
It's one of the hardest things to do, Yeah. It really is. And you can tell, I mean, it's funny that you're talking about it. I know you're talking about it also in your life, but as an actor, you can tell when somebody's not present, especially nowadays. There was that transition, I don't know, a lot of people will say it was Brando, right? Who started kind of this transition. But when somebody really just falls into themselves and you can tell they're really listening, because that's what presence is being able to listen. Yeah. And that's why I think so many interviews, going back to having a conversational interview, I think that's the power of that as well, because you can tell when somebody's rehearsed and they're just like, oh, got to hit this point, got to hit this point, got to hit this point. And they're not really listening and we're not making eye contact. I'm looking down at my notes the whole time. You can feel that. And it gets infused into the interview as well. But it's the same thing with acting. It's the same thing with you and your spouse. It's the same thing with your kids. It's everything. Sorry, I got all excited.
Oh, no, well, we're in Second Circle right now. It's beautiful. It's listening. And I think, a lesson, again, I wish I would have learned in my 20s, but I wasn't there yet, is I was approaching acting and scenes as a gymnast, which was like, this is a routine I performed.
Yes.
And that's cool. That's safe. You can do a good performance, but there's a level of presence that's not there. And I think that translates to a level of risk that's not there. And when you're fully present, it's not prepared and you don't know what's coming next. And there's a danger there. And I think it's like, I don't know what the words are. It's like a bit of a falling.
Yes.
And that falling is what makes us lean at the edge of our seats and be like, oh my God.
It's the tension. Yeah.
Yes. Or if it's a routine you practice, there's safety there.
For sure. It's like little mini leaps of faith and knowing that there's something there to catch you,
Or trusting, this has been a big one for me, trusting that if I am just fully present, that I'm enough of a human being that I'll handle it. To be honest, I was nervous for this podcast because I don't have.
That's big. Yeah.
Yeah, I was anxious because I'm not nervous. I'm not used to the unscripted, recorded conversation.
Yeah.
That's not something I don't have any reps really in that. And so I was really nervous and I had to sort of tell myself, well, he's a friend of Mike and Mike vouches for him.
Yeah.
And if I just am listening and present, then I'll be fine.
That's it. And I'm the same way, by the way. I have nerves. I have interviewed a bunch of people at this point, and I still get nerves. And I know that is actually going to, if I can use it properly, it'll kind of hook me into presence even more. Yeah. It can take you the opposite way too, where you can go full-blown anxiety attack, which has happened to me as well. Spoiler alert. No, but you can, there's times where just to bring it back to the podcast, like if I'm getting too rigid and let's say I'm really listening to you and I'm really present in that moment, but then I have that realization that I'm like, oh, hang on a second. I need to make sure I'm on pace here and I'm hitting this question, this next question. I'll have a moment where like I panic and the listening goes. And then I look down and there's like a kind of embarrassing moment almost of like, where you're fumbling. And it's a constant process of trusting that there will be a way. Like most of the time, a lot of these questions have been answered already without me asking them. Some haven't, but some of them take you in a different direction, and trusting that that's going to be more interesting because it is present. That's it. That's it.
Yes.
I'm glad to hear you say that. And I'm assuming it has helped your acting. I'm assuming it's helped your relationship. I'm assuming it's helped you with your kids. I may be off base, but I'm assuming it has.
Oh, it's helped so much. I mean, unfortunately, it feels like a relatively new realization or appreciation. So I don't know that as someone who's trying not to be so results oriented, I don't know that I've seen the results yet, but I feel the results. And definitely. I feel it in my performances in class, which to me are just as important as any on-screen thing. Yeah. My work in my class has just been so fun and dangerous.
Oh, good.
And that's and that has translated into the few auditions I've had in this slow time. And there's so many things we can't control as actors in this industry, but what we can control is not just growing in the craft, but like growing as human beings. And I think that was the thing I didn't learn until recently. It's like I grow as a human being. That's going to help my art.
Yes. Those are the intangible things that, maybe you can't see them on the resume or whatever, but it's that thing that when you're in the room with somebody, they go, I don't know, there's just this quality about this person that makes them head and shoulders above the rest. Yeah, it really, yeah. So I think it's great you're doing it. I think it's really important. I could talk about this like all the whole episode, Yeah. So I'm glad you're doing it. Have you ever taken an improv class?
It's been a while, but I'm interested to see if I took one now, how much more comfortable I'd be. Yeah. It was not something I'm good at, and not something I felt like I was good at, and not something that I succeeded in. Yeah. Because, by the way, maybe it's just maybe it was a control thing, and I wasn't letting go and trusting. Or, by the way, I come from a family that we're not necessarily the most quick-witted. We're funny, but we're not funny. We're not funny because of what we meant to. We're funny just because we accidentally stumbled into being funny. So I mean, you can see my sister and my mom and I, try to pull a metaphor or a reference. We're just not quick like that. And I do think there's an element of needing to be quick. I'm smart.
You seem quick. You seem quick to me. I interview a lot of people. You seem sharp. You seem with it.
Well, says the person who forgot the name of her own screenplay that I've been working on for 6 years.
Oh, come on. It's all right. I forget stuff all the time. No, I think you have to be. I mean, to be engaging, to be a good artist in general, to be funny, it takes some wit. It takes you got to be sharp on some level, at least.
But I think now, sorry.
No, go ahead. I completely, speaking of forgetting, I forgot what got us here.
But I was going to say, I think now, I mean, I don't think I will because of my life and my children, but we're to sign up for an improv class now that I understand that I can just trust that I'm enough of a human and I can just trust that being present, something will happen. Yeah. I bet you I have so much more fun and find so much more freedom and success that I wasn't there when I was doing that at 23.
Right. Well, it's one of those things. Improv for me is almost like a human experiment. You can see, if you're watching an improv class, you can see who's present and who's not present very easily. You got the ones who go in who are very rigid. Somebody's out there and they're just, conjuring something out of thin air and they're talking. And then another person will just come in and just disregard that and just go, no, that's a tree. And they'll start talking. And it's like, oh, okay. So you completely blocked what I'd created for you. You're not paying attention at all. You're coming in with a preconceived notion. So you can see who's being present and who's not being present in real time.
Yeah. I always found that they say improv is like being able to yes and. So you say yes to what's given and then you also have to and to add something else. I was brilliant at the yesing. You could tell
Yes.
me you were a green alien. I'd be like, totally, 100%. But then I like, would not know what to say after. Either that's literally because I'm just not quick and maybe it's just not in me, or I bet you it's more that I was like afraid of getting it wrong.
Definitely. You're probably
It's
not trusting
gymnastics.
yourself enough.
Yeah, afraid of
Yeah.
falling off the beam. So
Yes.
I wonder now if I came back with no fear of falling off the beam, what might happen.
Yes. And I think you should try it. I just yes-anded you. But
But I have these 2 babies. So.
right, that's true. That's true. I hear they take up a little bit of time. That's something that's been terrifying for me. I'm sure people are tired of hearing this on the podcast, but my wife and I have been, close for a while. I had a little bout with some chronic pain and stuff like that, but we're close, and it just terrifies me that it's going to take all my time. Because, as an artist who works from home, I would probably end up being the stay-at-home dad. So it scares me a bit. But how has that affected your ability to create?
The having a child?
In a good and bad ways, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Oh God, I could talk about this for hours.
Okay.
Well, I'm excited y'all are trying. Okay, that's so cool.
We're not. We're almost there. Yeah.
Okay.
Almost
You're
there.
in conversation.
Yes.
I know.
Yes, for sure.
I know. I wonder if my experience will be different for you because of all the hormone changes that a woman will go through. But I certainly noticed an uptick in what I'm calling anxiety. It might be fear. In my theory, and I have no idea if this is right or not, but like I think the woman's amygdala grows because my ability to hear and to smell and to sense danger is out of this world.
Yeah.
I can smell a poopy diaper, and of course that's not danger, but I can smell a poopy diaper from like 3 rooms away. My husband can't. I can hear a stir from 3 rooms away, and Mike sleeps right through it. So cool. That's all great. But I can like see a car accident about to happen. Like it's just this wonderful mama bear instinct. But as wonderful it is, it really did manifest also in like fear. And I remember my first couple of auditions back after having Austin, and these were in-person auditions, I was riddled with fear. My audition for the Sally Ride role on For All Mankind, I was beyond nervous. It was really debilitating. And I was like, this is not normal. And then I got the part. And then I showed up on set, and you might not be able to tell, but I can tell looking at the footage from the first episode I was in, I was panicked that I wasn't going to know my lines, which is it's an absurd fear when you're 15 years into a career, that
right.
Knowing lines is not a thing one should be concerned about. And yet
it's the actor's nightmare.
Yeah, but I do have nightmares about that, by the way. But but it was an anxiety that I never experienced before. And I worked through that, and then of course the self-tape thing happened, which made that a lot easier. But I've noticed it in other ways of I'm more intentional about the things I do, because there is this, I guess, this knowledge that I have these huge 2 responsibilities at home.
Yeah.
So in my 20s, I would have been like, oh, I have a podcast idea. Cool. And in 2 months I would have done it.
Yeah. And
now it's just a different equation. And really it's just, I have a different energy level.
That's kind of scares me more, because I already have like anxiety, and I'm already like that. I'm like hyper aware. I have a listening sensitivity. Like noise really sets me off, and I can hear something like down the street, and my wife's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I can just like pop up from bed. So that freaks me out a little bit, but maybe it'll have the reverse effect on me.
well, yeah, maybe because it's your own kid, it won't. Yeah, you won't. Yeah. But let me, for every negative, there's a pro, right?
Sure.
And the pro as an artist of having these kids is like, for the first time, I'm really appreciating the human being of it all.
Yeah.
And like walking outside barefoot and being like, oh my gosh, the moon. Cool.
Yes.
Wow. Jupiter. Cool. A trash truck. I mean, that shit is so magical.
All the stuff we take for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's got to be amazing for creativity. It's like being a kid again, almost.
And now my kids are getting into an age where we're like playing and being goofy, and that kind of like playing dinosaurs. And
yeah,
I think it's bringing me back to the sense of play and fearlessness in my acting that brings about that danger and that presence that's so interesting.
Yes, that's really cool. And I think also the fear aspect could be temporary.
I hope so. Yeah.
I think it's probably because they're young, and we also just went through a pandemic, which kind of fucked us all up a little bit, in certain ways. I think it has increased people's fears. Like I always talk about it as this, it seeped in through the cracks and exposed those little weaknesses that you might have like pushed down. The pandemic brought all those up to a head. It did with me, and I know it did with a lot of other people. So I'm assuming that'll probably, hopefully, get toned down a bit as they get older, right? Wouldn't you say?
Well, I think it already has.
Oh, it has. Okay, good.
I don't have the debilitating fear of like, am I not going to know my line?
Right.
But no, you're right. It's definitely still there because there's a dread of like an overcommitment because of the knowledge that like I only have so many hours to myself, and beyond that, I only have so much energy, and that was not the case when I was in my 20s.
Yeah. Now it's finite.
So finite.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But it also, it's interesting because I've talked to other mothers and parents too, and different types of constraints, but it is a type of constraint on your creativity. And I don't know if you found this, but I found that constraints also force you to focus in a little bit. And I was talking to a father the other day I just met, really cool guy. And he was talking about, he's a musician, and we were talking about the studio, and he's like, well, just create a bunch of stuff ahead of time so you can just like knock it out. And he's like, what it's forced me to do is be very fast. And he's like, I'm just really efficient now. And I'm like, I already understand that because I've had to do that in certain ways, but I would assume that kind of constraint would make you rise to the occasion and be more efficient.
Oh, I so think you're right. And I just thought of an example. Like I'm in an acting class right now where we are assigned scenes that are very long, like 10 pages, which is a lot. And I think previously I would have spent all week chipping away at it, and probably every day picked up the scene, and because I'm a good student and I'm a gymnast, blah blah blah. And but I can't do that now. I have a number of obligations. I have my own auditions, I have my friends' auditions, I have my day job work, I have my scripts I'm writing. I just can't work on an acting class scene every day.
Yeah.
And yet there's still 10 pages to memorize.
Right.
And there's still a rehearsal to do, and I do it all. I do it all like at 5 a.m. on a Saturday. I'll spend an hour, and then Wednesday's the only day I work on acting class. Yeah. And by the way, I'm obsessed with the work product that's coming out.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's not being lazy. I think 10 years ago, I'd be like, well, you're just being lazy. No, I'm not being lazy. I'm being exceptionally efficient.
Yes.
And I'm almost like working smarter, not working harder. I bet you it's that.
Yeah, definitely. It's focusing. It's like when people get into a stress response, their vision focuses, right? It's like that. Yeah. It's your work time is limited. So once you're in it, it's like you focus in. Yeah. I love that. That's really cool. Okay. All right. You've convinced me, Ellen. No, but do it. So do you have 5-10 more minutes? I typically end with a couple personal questions. Not that all these aren't personal.
Go for it.
Okay. So we've talked, well, let me ask you, what would you like to talk about? I ask about superpowers, daily routines, biggest quote unquote failures, what you've learned from them. Which one of those is something that you'd like to answer?
Oh, I mean, I should probably do failures since that's my podcast.
Yes, do it.
But I'm doing that thing where I'm blanking. Can you give me a second?
Of course. And by the way, while you're thinking about this, you were talking about when you're taping stuff, seeing certain things that you do. You're going to get that with podcasting too. You're going to hear all the ums and the likes and the pauses and the things you repeat. And it does make you better though, which is great.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I was like, am I going to listen to this after if Preston releases it? And like, maybe you should, maybe you don't want to. So, I mean, God, there's so many humiliating tiny moments.
Well, this even can be, if this helps, it can even be in your gymnastics days. It can be anything.
Okay. Do you want to hear my most embarrassing moment from when I was like 7?
Yes.
I had just been invited to come to the big team, like the big girls team on a Friday. So it was like a promotion from the prep team to the big girls team.
Nice.
Optionals, they called it, from the prep team to optionals. And I was wearing my like really fancy pink leotard that I was really proud of because apparently I was into pink, which is crazy because I was also a tomboy. And I show up and we're in the line. We're doing these drills across the floor. So I'm like, I place myself last in line because I'm a good student, right? I'm going to watch everyone and make sure I know how to do it right before I go.
Yes.
So all we're doing like I think it's called like a back extension roll. So it's a backward roll that you push up into handstand in the middle, just a drill. So everyone's finished. I'm the last person going. I'm doing my back extension roll. And as I push up into a handstand, I let out the biggest fart.
Yes.
And it surprises me so much that I didn't finish the roll. I just collapsed and fell onto my back. And my new coach leans over and just looks at me as everyone's giggling. And I looked at him and I said, I have some problems. That's all I remember.
Oh my God, that's great. Oh my God. What did you learn from that?
That I have some problems. Now that it's on, and it wasn't like I wasn't invited. It was a funny moment, and
that's hilarious.
And I was on that team for 12 more years. No one seemed to remember, but I certainly did.
Oh, they didn't give you any flack about that later on?
I don't think anyone remembered. No, I think
oh my God. Isn't that funny too? That's a great lesson though too, because these things are burned into our memories, right? And it kind of reminds me of how we always think people are devoting so much time to thinking about stuff that we did, and really people, they got their own lives to worry about. So maybe the lesson is just to move on. I
think another small one, but I spent a whole evening on set of Animal Kingdom calling the director and executive producer Chuck. His name was Chris. And I was so convinced his name was Chuck for some God knows reason.
Yeah.
And kept saying it. I was so proud that I knew his name that I'd be like, Preston, hi. I just kept saying it. Yeah. And then later that day, I looked up and I looked him up and it was Chris. And the next day I was like, did you know I was calling you Chuck? He was like, I did. I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that. I didn't say anything. Those are those moments where you're like, could you just tell me? Could you just save me just tell me my name is this? But that's hard to do. Oh my God, that's funny. I mean, it could have been worse. You could have said it for the rest of the time. I worked with Chuck, a few years back. Oh my God, that's great. I love it. Well, thanks for sharing those. Why don't we do advice to young Ellen? This can be any age. You can be speaking to your 20-year-old self. You can be speaking to your 12-year-old self. You can be speaking to your 30-year-old self. Doesn't matter.
I wish that I would have not been so quick to give away my power or how do I want to say this? I think I was very quick to be like, well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? Mm-hmm. Well, here's my performance. What do you think? Well, here's my opinion, but what do you think? And I never really gave myself the option and the time to be like, well, what do I think? I think I don't know what that's from, whether it was this imposter syndrome that I was like, oh, you're not really an actor. You're an athlete. You're not an artist. You're an athlete. I don't know. It was probably that. And it might've also been the community I was in. We were very quick to be like, tell me your notes. And I love that. I love that about myself. If you have an idea, I'm so yes, I will very easily yes it. Yeah. That's a great skill. But there's a trap in giving away your autonomy. I want to say that's the right phrase to use.
Yes.
Where it would be, well, here's the scene, but what do you think? Where now it's very much, well, what do I think? And what do you think? But also, what about this thing that I think? And also, what do you think? There's a lot more collaboration.
Do you think this also came from like a people-pleasing tendency?
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, imposter syndrome is huge with creative people. I mean, it still happens to this day with me on some level, and people pleasing also is in there. But that's a really good lesson for any of us.
Yeah.
Like own your own power a little bit, understand. I was always so quick to like, okay, if I had an idea, I was like immediately embarrassed about it the moment it left my mouth. And then I was like, oh, well, what do you think? Or like I would give that away right away, or like excuse myself. So that definitely resonates with me for sure.
I still do it. It kills me of like cutting something down before you even let someone have the chance to form their own opinion.
Yeah. Or making an excuse for it before you say, this might be stupid, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I do that all the time. And I think I'm getting better at it, but I really wish I wouldn't And I think related to that, or maybe this is a tangent, but like, I think we like community so much. We crave it. We need it. It's part of our identity. But I also think maybe a trap there that I experienced was, oh, I'm part of this community. Now I'm done. As opposed to being like, well, what can I steal from this community? And what can I steal from that community? And what can I steal from that community to make me, me? As opposed to just being like, oh, I'm part of this.
Right.
I'm talking, I guess, about acting studios, but I think that also pertains to life. It's like, oh, I'm a Catholic. That's it. It's like, well, but what if there's awesome things to steal from Buddhism? And what if there's also cool things to steal from evangelicals, right? Like,
I completely agree. I think that's something that's really running rampant in our society right now too, is people defining themselves by groups. Like, because it's so easy once you're in a group, you know who the opposition is. And if you want to even take it a step further in history, typically when we've done these kind of group mentalities, it's like, it's so you can dehumanize another group and make it easier to either subjugate them or go to war or whatever it is you're doing. So yeah, I think being open-minded and taking from, I take from all, I take from anywhere I find something, any bit of wisdom. So I think that's, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing those. I want to give you a chance to, first of all, tell people where they can find you online, social media and maybe Vimeo or wherever you got a better place. Let us know. Did you want to tell us now? I'll put it in the show notes as well, but where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm slightly active on Instagram. You'll find what's coming up next and cute pictures of my family. My handle is Ellen_Wroe. I also have a Vimeo page. I think it's vimeo.com/Ellen Wroe. Probably. It might be so, Ellen. Yeah. And then I have an Active Pitch account, which is sort of more for industry professionals, but it's activepitch.com/Ellen Wroe as well. It has my resume, headshots, and clips to, things I've done.
Okay, nice. Yeah, and that's Ellen Wroe, WROE. If anybody's, yes, but I will put that in the show notes as well so people can click on that. I want to end by asking you if you have anything you want to talk about that I missed or that I left out or I didn't find in my digging, or you want to plug anything like that, or if you feel good, you feel good.
I feel great. I think I forgot to mention that my second son's name is Jackson, and he's also wonderful. I feel like I really talked about all of them, and I feel bad.
You did say Jackson's name.
Okay, he has a name. He's wonderful. And
Jackson, we love you too.
We love you too, Jackson. And he's just saying the word poo-poo, and it's really cute.
Oh, so, that's awesome. There you go. I love it. Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get a chance to, my wife and I will get a chance to see you at the gallery sometime and see your kids and your husband.
Well, his name is Mike. Mike BBQ is his nickname. We love him.
We love you too, Mike. Mike, we love you.
Love you too, Mike. Next time you're making the trek to Hermosa, and we're in Redondo, so we're right there.
Oh, great. Yeah, there's a couple shows coming up in the next few months. Yeah, we'll definitely let you know. Anything you want to leave the audience with, or do you feel good wrapping up now?
I feel great. Thanks, guys, for listening. This was really fun.
Yeah, awesome. Check out Ellen. I'm sure you have seen her already. You've seen her work, but check her out online. I really love what you do. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Stick around for a minute, but thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
This has been the Living Artist Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I just want you to know that I appreciate you being here, and I'm grateful to be in your ears. Your art and creative life on this planet is meaningful, so thank you for sharing it with me. If you like this podcast, whatever platform you're listening to it on, please subscribe and share it with your friends. You can also leave me a positive review to show your support. This helps me to reach more people with the algorithmic magic and keep the show going strong. If you want to see more of what I do and check out the art that I create, you can visit my website at www.pmsartwork.com or follow me on social media everywhere at PMS Artwork. That's it for now. See you back here next time.